A couple of hours from now, the closing ceremony for the Parapan Games will take place outside Toronto City Hall.
That is where the giant Toronto sign has resided since the Pan Am Games opened. It became a huge draw for tourists and a source of pride for residents who eventually embraced the Games. It appears that the thrill of the competition ignited the city, but was the experience enough to convince Torontonians to embrace more large-scale events? CTV's Heather Wright is at Nathan Phillips Square with more on the Parapan Am Games legacy. Heather.
Hi, Andrea. Yes, you can hear behind me the party is getting underway here for the closing ceremony. It kicks off at about 8 p.m. tonight, and people are very excited about the Parapan Am Games and, of course, the Pan Am Games that wrapped up in July. Many people reflecting on the weeks of competition in the city and wondering what could be next for Toronto. It's been a summer full of sport as the Pan Am and Parapan Am Games took over Toronto.
These athletes are so good.
So good that Canadian athletes competing in the Parapan Am Games brought home a total of 168 medals. Good enough for a second-place finish behind Brazil.
I really wanted my children to see differently abled athletes performing at such a high level of competition so that they could see that there are athletes of all different abilities.
The hope that the athletes competing during these games have inspired the next generation of athletes who were watching from the stands.
Hopefully we had a lot of kids coming out to our venues. Hopefully they got inspired a little bit to try and become one of those next athletes. I think that will be part of the legacy.
With the Parapan Am Games coming to an end, the focus now shifts to the 2024 Olympics and whether Toronto should place a bid to host those games. The city has to decide quickly, though. The deadline to register interest is September 15th. Mayor John Tory has put together a working group to look into the Olympics. They will be talking to businesses, unions, sport organizations, and citizens to gather feedback.
We've got to be very careful not to take the euphoria of something well done and just conclude that means we should do the Olympics, so we'll be careful about it.
And no matter who you speak with, everyone, it seems, has an opinion on whether Toronto should be an Olympic host.
How many cities have ever made money on the Olympics, you know?
I don't want my tax dollars going for it. More tourists, more money?
For now, though, some still getting over the effects of these games, namely excitement that the HOV lanes will soon be a bitter memory.
It was terrible. I was late for work all the time.
Some Torontonians may have been reluctant hosts, but athletes, officials, and visitors alike didn't seem to notice.
The Canadian hospitality was great for us, and we felt at home. Amazing games.
Games that wrap up tonight, with many wondering if something even bigger might be in Toronto's future. Okay, so a bit more congestion to tell you about for tonight. Bay Street will be closed from Queen to Dundas until midnight. Wellington Street will also be closed from Church to University, also to midnight. You are going to want to avoid Front Street. It will be closed from Church Street to Parliament, and James Street and Albert Street will also be closed. University Avenue is also going to be another route that you're going to want to avoid. Now, of course, all of these road closures have to do with the closing ceremony that is going to get underway here at Nathan Phillips Square at 8 p.m. Wyclef Jean is going to be headlining this along with the country superstar from Bowmanville, Ontario. The event is free, and as I mentioned, it gets going at 8 p.m. Reporting live, I'm Heather Wright. Austin, back to you.
Thanks, Heather.